Peace, human families of the planet Earth. You are now tuned in live to Super Heru Radio. You're now tuned in to Super Heru Radio. I'm your host, Aseer along with my co-host, Selena, the Empress of 10,000 Years. Amor, the Prince of Tears, all of you beautiful people. Love and light and blessings to anybody that may have lost a loved one since the last time we spoke. And thank you guys for making us one of the longest running blog talk shows in the existence of Small Talk. I've been telling you a long time now that we're getting ready to make moves and go to a better venue where it will be more under our control. So please stay tuned for that, because we want to get in a position where we don't have to deal so much with some of the problems that go along with setting up the joint. But we definitely want to give love and light and thank you guys for the continued support for all of the years being that we've been on. It'll almost be 6 years, well, 5 years soon.
And I wanted to continue and, thank everybody for tuning in every week, because, without flyers being sent out and without all this advertising that gets done in the new age, we've had a core number of supporters that it's overwhelming sometimes, because, it's a lot going on in the world, and there's a lot of volume of whether it be emails or just people that have certain concerns. And it's just Aseer and I in our apartment. And when I say that, we literally mean it, because I just thought of a great woman that I could hopefully try to, have help me during the week with just emails and responding. And I was like, I can't do that. I can't. Who gives somebody their personal email password as well as their Facebook password just to balance out, emails? Like, this is what I'm considering doing, because I want to be able to get to everybody's personal needs and at least let people know that we got their emails. And that's impossible to do. I thought about doing it, and I unfortunately don't know anybody out here that I've known for quite some time that has also, followed what we do or, what we're trying to accomplish, and just say, hey, can you step up and just help a little so that, people can know that this is not a business that you can do that with. That is what I'm trying to express. I'm looking at my son, I'm cleaning up goat cheese pizza off the floor, and I'm talking on the phone and letting you guys know that when I try to seem professional, in answering, like, let's say 50 emails a day, it's really hard to do. And we fall behind, Just Aseer said sometimes. We're actually not that far behind. It's just to say that, I have maybe 2-3 days of emails that I'd like to, answer right now. But, in due time, I'm going to get to everybody's. And if I don't get to you, keep emailing us. Just email us and be like, this is the second email. I hope you guys are okay. And, don't take anything personal. Like, and I say that to myself as well. Like, sometimes I'll call, people and they're just busy because of what they have to do in life. And I've learned to not take it personally or not, make myself feel as though something was wrong. And no, I just had to literally call a brother the other day and say, I'm sorry that I didn't even get your message. I didn't get your email. I might have erased it on an accident. But, he was like, hey, I'm wondering about this. And he said, what's the problem? We don't trust each other. And he went into such a deep, personal analysis of why I didn't email him back. And I just wrote him, like, we were in Texas for 5 days, and I was thrown off of all of my emails. Like, no, it has nothing to do with you. I'm not trying to send you any, subliminal message about anything. Like, none of that. So he ended up calling me, and we had a great rapport. And it was wonderful because he was like, I'm sorry I even, wrote all that. And I said, it's okay. We have emotional days. But I also wanted to let him know that it was nothing personal. And I wasn't personally trying to avoid his email. And I say that to say, people, like, we are really trying to provide services that are going to help us navigate through all of this. With all the disinformation that's being, supported and perpetuated, and with all like the accolades. There's a whole, when people see a whole bunch going on, oh, that's popping. When really I'm trying to allow all that to take place and stay in the cut, stay in stay where it matters most. One-on-one personal connections with people, answering people's questions, because everybody is going to be coming from a different experience, a different point of view. And like I said, I cannot just send a general email to people and be like, oh, this is what we say this week and this is how. I can't have somebody write on our behalf. I have to do it, or Aseer has to do it, or it's not going to be coming from us. And the energy is going to be a little bit thinned out, and I'm going to, entrust someone else to do what I'm doing. And unfortunately, unless we're in a space where I can really pay and create like a portal for someone else to run, I can't share my personal portals with others. And I say that to say, this isn't the type of business. It's not like a used car business or a video business or like a movie business where you order a film and you get it mailed to you the next day. Sometimes things take, 3 to 5 days. Or I'm saying all this to say, thank you guys for being patient and understanding that this is still a husband and a wife in our apartment, really just trying to, not trying, who are making major moves in our space, because we have patience. This is such a process where your patience is tested, that if you don't have patience, I would not recommend this for anyone who didn't have patience. The same thing, just taking it a day at a time. I say all that to say that we actually set up the website. It looks amazing. Tonight is a great day and a great evening to launch it, seeing as how we're entering the new moon space and we're in it as of yesterday. What I want to tell people is that the site is there as a service for us to post our public notices and for us to post our declarations and for us to not be charged ridiculous amounts of money in order to accomplish it. But in order for us to even do this, we had to go through the hazing of being charged $900 to sometimes $1,200 to post a 4 to 6 week notice, that we ended up spending all that money. And after spending that money, I said, this is what has to be done in order for people to declare properly. But do you see why motherfuckers would rather just spend $300 on a fake package or do something that emotionally feels good, but it's not going to, have any end result? Things that work take money and time in this country, unfortunately. And after we were charged that huge amount of money, Aseer and I were like, anything we can do to save. So we built a site. It's called We Are Moorish Science Temple at wearemoorishsciencetemple.com/e-notices. I'm going to tell it exactly to you. But I'm saying that there's an email, but if they went to the website, they can email us through that site, or you can just email us directly at wearemoorishsciencetemple@gmail.com. That is the email address that I have set up to receive all emails dealing with declarations, dealing with notices, and dealing with affidavits or anything that we need to declare publicly. It's ridiculous that we're being hazed, or Moors are being hazed, upwards up to $1,500 to post anything, and we said no more. Let's make it affordable, and if there's something posted online for 4 weeks, it could and should work. We had to go through a couple of channels just to make sure we did it legally correctly, and it is up and running. It's www.wearemoorish with 2 O's, MOORISH, sciencetemple.proclamation. That's PROCLAMATION.enotices.org. So we needed the enotices.org at the end. Thus, it's www.wearemoorishsciencetemple.proclamation.enotices.org. Spread the word to those that may want to declare for themselves and not trust any corporate group to do it for you, this is a great way to start the process. You definitely need to declare your nationality in a public venue, and this is something that's going to be $250 rather than $950 or $1,000. We were charged $900. It was $920. But the point is that it took a while to create. It's up. I can start accepting people's declarations. I can also start helping people form their own declarations. That's going to be a $50 service in itself. It's all donations towards the temple. We need a space, and I'm willing to do the work in order to get one. But in the meantime, what I need you guys to do is spread the word that there is a nice little underground space where you can actually declare your notices. And if you want to start the process, just email us and say, hey, if you don't know what form to use, if you have no idea what we're talking about, just email me at wearemoresciencetemple@gmail.com and say, hey, I heard your show and I would love to know more. I can send you the template and get you started. But unfortunately, I need to talk to the people directly. I need to know who's coming in, and I need to make sure you're aware of the little things we might have to, get done, which is really, it's not even deep like that. We have a nice little form to fill out. Let's get it started, okay? So spread the word. I'm going to write it in the chat room. And I also just wanted to say, we've had it for like 3 weeks, but I needed to wait till the new moon. And I also just wanted to give it some time to see if I could test my own declarations, and it's working wonderfully. Towards the end of the 4-week run, you can get an actual affidavit of publishing from us as well as a notarized document. That's the affidavit. It's a notarized document stating that you concurrently ran an ad through the We Are More Science Temple at sciencetemple.proclamation.enotices.org. It's still a very private venue. You just can't go on the website and post up your own stuff. You still have to pass it through the email address or just pass it through us so that we can actually post it. So we're not posting big booties on, we're not posting anything crazy as my mind goes to like, what would people post if they could just go online and do it themselves? That's the little, got to have a process of editing, and then you'll throw it on. But I'm not going to not allow anybody to not do it. If you need notices declared, let us know. We have no problem in helping out. Love you guys. I'm sorry, I was looking at him more. Putting him down now. Thank you for being patient. Please don't take anything that we do or don't do personally. It's not anything to offend. It's just hard to organize classes, still have things concurrently run every Wednesday and Monday, still be available to answer, new people's emails, and still provide a service for people that we do know who are in the process of nationalizing. So it's a lot, and I appreciate you guys so much for being patient and for tuning in to us, because I don't even know anymore. I'm always like, look, whatever is going on, this is what we are doing. And in knowing that true energy always finds each other, I want to thank everybody in Texas, because we met some amazing individuals, some amazing brothers and sisters. And, it always amazes me that those that aren't sparked by all the glitz and glamour seem to find us. So I really appreciate you guys for liking true history and wanting things to be answered without all the fluff and, mediocrity. Have a great evening. I love you guys. And I'm going to try, like every week as well, to answer people's emails about health and nutrition if you guys have any questions, because I think it's so important to be speaking from a place of experience, but to also, give advice from what it is you've done yourself. i.e., I cannot recommend that if you are going to encourage women to breastfeed, please know what it feels like to breastfeed yourself. If you're going to encourage someone to have, I'm just trying to think of different things. You just got to know what you're talking about and not always try to seem like such a perfect whatever. You know, if you're going to talk to someone about nutrition, then be honest about what you eat and keep it real. And there's just too many actors out there with this shit. So I'm really like, you know, I'm not very online and all on Twitter all the time. I don't have any of that. But what I do have is an email address and a phone. And I'm not going to charge you a package program to get healthy. If you need help, I have a simple food journal document you guys can fill out, and it's real easy. It's like $25, $30 I charge you for a half-hour consultation. And real simple. So if you're interested in any of that and you just want to know how to get healthy, what to avoid eating, and not be charged crazy amounts of dough, please give me a ring or an email drop, housesl@hotmail.com. All right, back to the history and back to some real stuff. But that's all the public stuff for you guys. All right, peace.
Peace. Thanks, babe. That was dope. I'm not even going to sleep. I hope everybody, like I said, really is doing the knowledge to it, what's going down. Because the time is moving for us to really make something happen out of that. It's going to take longer than that. It'll be 5 minutes. I'll do it tomorrow. So,
Who in there?
what, he stepped on something? Got it?
Yeah.
Go and do it some other side tomorrow. Old school. Yeah, man. So much is going down, as always. However, when it gets to the root of it, the same thing that's been going down has always been going down. People being put outside of themselves, people being made to be trustees of their own estate, people being lied to based upon other people's position and them wanting to be the one that's bringing them the right knowledge. Like, all of that stuff is crazy. So nowadays, if you're noticing, we as Moorish people are becoming more and more mainstream. And because we're becoming more mainstream, or it's becoming more mainstream, the United States, what happens with anything that becomes mainstream, the U.S. tries to put its own face on it to make you think that the mainstream aspect of it is real. We've seen them do it with jazz. We've seen them do it with hip-hop. We've seen them do it with rock and roll. We've seen them do it with anything that you say. We've seen them do it with the word bling bling. Anything that is cool. Look at Miley Cyrus twerking. Like, this is, everybody's upset at Justin Bieber and all of this thing because he's acting like a nigger. But the thing is, that's what they are. We started to believe that we was the real niggas, but really, we were never niggas to begin with. The real niggas was these niggas, these Caucasian people. You can't even call them that. These Eurozoids or whatever, who were under the jurisdiction of Negro. You understand? Or Negroism, who became and were always known as that before you ever were. So it's just that we took the nigga thing to the next level. We actually made this shit cool. See, when they was niggas, right, or niggers, right, they were whack. Like, they made this shit whack. They wasn't like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just wasn't in a position where it was like attractive. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when we became niggas, it's like that's when niggerdom became like the shit. Like, everybody wanted to be that. And since then, they've been marketing this black nigga thing for the past, about 150 years, where they switched the complexion of who the original Americans were. Matter of fact, let's go check that out. This is from an American Webster Dictionary of 1828. Okay. And the term for America, right? It says American and it says America, right? Or American. And American means a native of America. Originally applied to the copper-colored races found here, The Native of America originally applied to the Aboriginals. The Aboriginals of America are me and you. The Indians are the natives, meaning descended from white folk who married into you and merged with the tribe of Hushen that came over here from China about 50,000 years ago. So what that then means is that prior to this, if Indians were Aboriginals, then wouldn't they call them that? Yes. But they don't, because they're not that. That's why when the Indians basically just a little while ago, the racist Cherokees started kicking all of the black people out of their so-called nation because they, wanted to be more direct white people with the white man. That's the best thing that could have happened to those black people who call themselves Cherokees, because guess what? That's not your nation. That's your tribal affiliation. But your nation is Moorish or Moabite. So they actually did you a favor. See, they could be Cherokee, but they can't be Chiratagi or Chiratagi. Right? The Cherokee language that they speak is called Jalagi. This is where you get the term Cherokee from. But it's actually Chira Tal Alagi. Cheera. Like cheers, Chira. Right? Then A-L. Al. Then T-A-G-L. Tagal. Chira Al-Tagi. And the last word is G-H-E-E, which is a common surname amongst Gypsy people. The people they call the Malungians are these people that came later. So as you can see, these ancestral connections is already there. So in that, we already know who the so-called real copper-colored American is. But it was now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Now, the word descendant, what do we think that means? Descendant don't mean relative. Descendant actually means dead person. You understand? So when you say that you are a descendant from, let's say, Cleopatra, then what you're saying is that you are the dead relative of her. You're not saying that you're a direct relative of her, first of all. So what that does now is that takes out of the different contexts when they start asking you different things about your native descent on paperwork and things like that. When people are asking you, that's a trick question. What's your native descent? Alive, nigga, because I'm not dead. So you have no native descent because your authentic self is ascending. You have a line of ascension. That's what you deal with. But most of these people that's out here giving you knowledge and shit like that, or people that's promoting certain forms of knowledge, are not putting it in the context of making it specific to you. So Aboriginal is a cool term to a degree, you know what I'm saying? However, the problem that most people are going to have, especially the sticklers, you know how black people, when they get in messages and shit like that, they become real sticklers for details and shit. What you would see is they created a place where the nominal descent of the people has now been killed, therefore is now dead. Therefore, your descendants represent those members of your family that are either mentally or physically dead. Therefore, they have no real way of accessing their truest nationality or form of that national character, because they have left this what they call this mortal coil. And so because the money changers who are existing as your overlords or overseers have created a country based on tacit consent or compelled benefit. So sovereignty itself cannot come from paperwork. Okay? What you or most people have been perceived as sovereign, it does not come from the paperwork. The paperwork is evidence of your genetic, physical, mental, and spiritual commitment to breathe life back into the so-called dead vessel that has been disenfranchised from its original self. So the act of what you're doing is sometimes more significant than what is being done. When you declare who and what you are also saying what you are not. By the action of the express trust. The express trust is anything given to you or expressed to you in trust or confidence that brings you back into your national and divine character. That's why I don't give a damn how much you know. Whatever you know is great. That represents Earth. How do you deal with the things that you don't know and assimilating other information that is unknown? That is really what says who and what you are. Because anybody can think they know things. And anybody who knows anything knows that the more you know nothing at all. And that's what allows you to then know more. That's why the prophet said, know thyself and you will know all things. Study yourself under your own vine and fig tree. So nobody that's bringing you knowledge without no spirituality is bringing you anything of benefit to you. There's no difference between a morally bankrupt Christian preacher and a morally bankrupt metaphysician. There's nothing different than a morally bankrupt evangelical so-called pastor than a dirty babalao. Like, there's no difference. There's no difference in none of that. So the problem, like I said, becomes when we strive to ally ourselves with concepts that don't really pertain to us, or we have an skewed version of a historical context that then puts us in the present outside of our own initial security. So nationality, like I said on shows before, protects you from alien abduction. It protects you from illegal compelled benefit. It protects you from demonic possession. It protects you from genetic manipulation. Well, how does it do this? How does it do this? Well, I don't know about other nationalities because I'm not any other nationality. But in terms of mine, having been a Moor and not knowing, and now knowing I'm a Moor and being that, what I'm seeing is that the difference comes in the details and the subtleness of how people start to deal with you. And there's a difference between you, let's say, dressing culturally and you representing a culture based on your nationality. Like when you see a so-called Jew walking around with a yarmulke, you know that he's a Jew and that he has used his so-called religion to associate himself with a quasi-nationality. You know what I'm saying? Even though genetically he or she may not be, if they're coming from, let's say, a European aspect, they're not genetically related to the patriarchs and matriarchs of the so-called religion, which is a genetic connection that they have been acting as if they are that. So when they say that they are chosen people, they're saying that based on their genetics. But chosen by whom? They are chosen by their father, who was Yaqub. And being that they're the ones who keep that to themselves, but then use that to help break up other things, they become useful to any any barbarous nations that choose to invest and engage in things like usury and interest. But that's not the game, because the minute you deal in usury, you deal with slavery. That's why the Moors forbid them back in the days to have, they could own things, but they could not own the land, because the land a lot of times would be flipped over based upon them selling it, reselling it, quick claim deeding it, quick titling it, all this other crazy stuff. All of these are byproducts of living in a colorable, fictitious society. So it was decreed by God that, when I say God, I'm talking about the universal grand spirit, great. Yeah. That's a good one. So, remember, it wasn't the Romans that killed Jesus, as depraved and crazy as they were. It wasn't them. It was the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and the Sanhedrin that worked to make that happen. Now, if Isa or Yehoshua or Iosus or Jesus, whatever you want to call him, as a prophet, existed in the corporeal sense, then if you look at the historical context of him, then you would see that he is in a better position, or is in a remnant position of you and me, meaning that he was born of a single mother. He didn't really know his father. He grew up in the ghetto. He didn't have a lot of money, but he was rich. He was cool with the pimps and the whores, right? They looked out for him. He was hard on the man, you know what I'm saying? He kept it real, you know what I mean? He brought wine to people, you know what I mean, and bread, taught niggas how to fish, taught them how to apply metaphysics to life. Like, that's the Moors. That's what you do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not going to negate the essence or the spirit of the individual based upon the lies of the individuals about who or what this entity or this being was, especially if this was a genetic ancestor to me and those who are like me, because he, again, was allegedly a descendant of David based upon the lineage of the genealogy of Matthew, or the genealogy of Isa in Matthew, as well as the Circle 7 Quran. So, being that he come from the line of Phares and Judah, just like everybody else, you know what I'm saying? That's the Ils and the Bays. That's the Elohims and the Yahweh. Yet, because individuals have created the subspectrum through misinterpretations of things like the Tetragrammaton and all of that, they are giving life to entities and spirits that don't exist until they open up that pattern or that doorway to do so. This is equivalent to the story of the Magician's Apprentice or the Sorcerer's Apprentice with Mickey Mouse. We put on the fez and then went in and started being able to call up the clouds and the seas and the oceans, but it got too much for him to control. And it got to the point where he caused so much destruction that it wasn't until the great master came back, you know what I'm saying, that he was able to put everything right. And then that's when he got put on punishment, you see. So apply that now to them or those who practice these things as a basis for what it is they're doing and how they're herding people into these human farms we call cities that allow people to be domesticated through luxury. You know what I mean? How many numbers do you really remember anymore? Those of us who come from the era of rotary dial phones. You know what I mean? How pleasant was it when you had to wait to get home to call somebody? You've forgotten what that type of anticipation is like. Because all you got to do now, the minute you think about anything, you could just, boom, put it online, and then everybody know what you think. So in a lot of ways, that's good because it's a communal form of communication, but yet it still doesn't take away the fact that both sides have to exist simultaneously, the public and the private. You can't put one aside and then give up the other. You got to work with both in harmony. But in modern context, because we are an occupied people, occupied in the mind, by the descendants of the true slaves, the true people who were provided for in the records of the Halifax and the Providence plantation in the so-called New England. Those were the initial two biggest plantations that were allied with that British movement to disenfranchise and eventually take over, you know what I'm saying, the landmass. But they couldn't do it alone, so I had to work. For about 10 years, you know what I mean? In secret, while they was fighting each other. You know what I'm saying? All in league with the crown, the Vatican, to denationalize the original fruit of Islam in the Garden of Eden that we'll call Bled El Siba, a.k.a. United States of America and General Congress Assembled. So you, as an ascendant and a remnant of the original purpose, of the original treaties, a posterity citizen, a preamble citizen, meaning you descend from the free inhabitants of the several states, which is why you got a Circle 7 Quran. You know what I'm saying? That was represented by the continental flag as well as the 48-state historic flag, which represented the 48 states, 13 zones of the original so-called Monarchan, a.k.a. Moroccan Empire, also called the Mohegan and the Mohawken, also called the Ogandawa, also called Degandawada or Hiawatha, both being individuals in the great story of the great law of peace, how that came into existence, as well as being the representative of the two nations that existed here as Aboriginal nations, which were, again, the Societas Republicae Americanos Estados, the perpetual society of the Moors, and the so-called Tuamocan dynasties, the dynasties that were existing that we'll today call the Maya, Inca, Toltec, Olmec, whatever. I don't think it's too. We could call the Salvation Army and they will come pick it up. They'll come and get it. I'll go get. You want to go out and get them? All right. So essentially that means that leaves us. Yet we've been lumped in with the itemized cargo manifest of Negro or African. Therefore, we don't have our own identity. You know what I'm saying? In the United States, other than a 14th Amendment citizen or whatever the United States is calling you at the moment. That's what your identity is as a person of color in that society. They can't even call you anything directly, so they keep calling you. Nice. She black, too. About time. That's why you're so hated in American society. Because these are the descendants. These white people, no matter how sublime, no matter how magnanimous, they are still descending from a people who worked generationally to screw you out of everything that you owned. That's what they're also not telling you. That's why they have money and you don't, because they're still living off of those things. They even did it to their own people. They screwed their own people out of money. So why do you think they would let you have yours? But it's a color thing. It was a money thing that became a color thing to keep the money thing going. So it's still it's still a color thing, man. Don't let these niggas fool you. Don't let these niggas act like they still not hating you because you melanated. Don't act like they still not putting CC, color correcting creams, in all of these ads that's marketed to totally the black women who want to look white or want to have aspects of white beauty in them, to the point where they start getting these creams, and they even show you the commercial where there'll be a white line that with a woman dark skin, and then it goes over her face, and then she's lighter, meaning the blemishes are gone. But the blemish they're talking about is the melanin. They're not talking about little dark spots. The dark spot they talking about getting rid of or color correcting is the pineal organ. Like I said, one joint in the Mademoiselle magazine, the Queen showed me, said that this removes melanin the way bleach removes a stain. So this is what's being marketed in these same magazines. Essence, right? Ebony, right? Now, who on them pictures? Who advertising it? Halle Berry, right? Beyonce, and all these people. Because they not only taking the cream, rubbing creams in, they taking the pills too. But they always want to come back to show, oh, I'm down, I'm real. You know what I'm saying? It's killing you. Remember, melanin is in your whole body. It's in everything. So if you want it out of your skin, you're not going to be specific. Say, okay, I just want it out of my dermis. No, it's going to start to remove it out of every part of your body, which means that the melanin that was there that helps with your cholesterol level to protect your organs, God forbid something happens, starts to decrease, which then makes the cholesterol harden, which then forms artery hardening and artery clogging, which then creates low blood flow, and then eventually start getting headaches, start getting fibroids, start getting cancer. Where the hell is this coming from? It's coming from you, idiot, because you've been killing yourself, buying this Clinique and all of the rest of this crap, so that way you could look what? So you could be manageable. Look at what you're doing. They got your hair, they got your skin, they got your eyes, they got your lips, your breasts, your behind, like your nails. Like, what about you is real? Like, where are you? And the white girl doing it too. I don't think the white girls ain't doing it, but that's their culture. That's their culture. They supposed to do that. They supposed to be artificial. The more artificial mean things they put in themselves, the longer they'll exist physically. The more you put on you, the less time you'll be here. Because that's not made for you. They created a society where these things work for them. They created a system where they perpetually bleach rice. Okay? A rose wasn't a rose until they could graft a white one. Like, this is the world that they live in. It's a colorable world created based upon your denationalization directly. And that's what people don't want to deal with, because it's that straight to the point. Like, you could talk to me all day about Martin Luther King. Whatever, man. Whatever. He was great. He did a lot. He got a lot of people inspired. Got a lot more people beat up. You know what I'm saying? Shot up, ate up by dogs, whatever. But still inspired a whole generation. At least he tried to come in and come real at the end by building with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Malcolm X. At least he tried to do something. But for all he did, he never picked up Vernon Johns, who he was really sent in to replace. Exactly. It's all fake. It's all an illusion. And that's what I'm trying to say. It becomes this back and forth thing about trying to maintain a position of pseudo-superiority, and that my ideology is better than yours, when all of it's the same thing. Like, when I see a Hebrew Israelite wearing a turban, I look at that as what it is. I don't look at it as a head wrap. That's a Moorish turban he got on. So whether he going to call himself a Moor or not, I'm going to deal with him based upon what he applies himself as. But in the higher me, I know that this dude don't realize yet he's a Moor. So when you have, let's say, Hebrew Israelites, they refer themselves as Yahweh or Ben and this. Ben means son. Yahweh is Bey. So if Yahweh is your last name, then that's like Bey. You understand? you could evidence this in Psalms 82, 6, 7, but regardless to even that, you could go back to the time that man was made in the original Genesis. This is why the prophets said, don't get rid of your Bibles. But the Hebrew Israelites are Christians. See what I'm saying? And I'm using them as an example, the same way Kemites essentially are dealing with the Coptic aspect of Osar or Heru in the form of Isa or whatever. So, to me, all of these people are Moors. They just still under the whole thing about their version of it being like the right one. But Yahweh Ben Yahweh was one of the adepts. Just like CM Bay, Sweet Daddy Grace, WD Ford, Elijah Muhammad, and the Father Allah. So again, these are the schools of thought that, and you could also put in Ra on Afu Nefer in that too. Shechem is Shechem. You know what I'm saying? And then those who were the allies and proteges at the time, the Booker T. Colemans, the C. Freeman Eels, and the Bobbies and the Phils and everybody else. But all of this come from somewhere. Right after the rise of the Mahdi state, or the Mahdi state, when Sudan was still part of Egypt, is when the Moors were starting to pop all this stuff over here through the Ahmadiyya movement. Know your history, man. The Ahmadiyya movement, the UNIA movement, which became the Garvey movement, and the Moor Science Temple were all connected. And the connection came through Sheikh Deuce Muhammad, who was a part of the Mahdi state, as well as a partner of Suleiman Muhammad and El Karim Il, the Moroccan who was fighting against the Spanish. And the prophet who was being raised in that came up through the Ahmadiyya movement and was brought to India and became a high sheikh in that. There was a publication that they used to publish where you could see his picture in there under his Mahatma name. I remember your homegirl, Blavatsky, who was the nursemaid to Hitler and Stalin, also spoke of the Mahatmas being the secret chiefs. Nobuju Ali, who was the chief, and the Mahatma, was under the name Moolavi Mubarak Ali. And the more blessed me with the joint where I was reading it, where it was talking about how he set up all of these temples and all of this shit out in Germany, Germania. Another one of your allies and dominions through the Holy Roman Empire. Because Rome came out of Carthage. Remember that. And Carthage was an ally to Macedonia. Macedonia's king, Agamemnon, was cool with Philip, who had a son named Alexander, who was raised, who was taught by, what's his name, Aristotle, or one of them, whose mother was a Carthaginian, a Moor. So when they talk about people that's Greek, remember, Greeks didn't become white until after 1945, like everybody else, when they started to apply for citizenship here. They had to fall into the color thing in order to get their money. Everybody got to do the dance of shitting on the Moors when you come here, so that way they could trust you with using the Moor's name to get money here. So the prophet at this time is going to all these different places, setting all these different things up. And just like you used to do back in the days when you was in British court, your name might be King Louis XVI. But when you're in Spanish court, your name might be, Luis, Moreno the 16th. But then when you in Morocco, you Moulay Ismail. You see what I'm saying? Same way Cameron said, in New York I'm Cam, in VA I'm Penny. I'm this name here, and then when I'm in VA I'm Kenny. You got all these different names. But your free national name is always your birth certificate name that was set up to account with the account of the estate that was ordained by God as a descendant of the original government that was destined by God to take back over control. But when I say God, I'm talking about Gumar Oz Dubar, which is wisdom, strength, and beauty. I'm also talking about on the spiritual plane. On the physical plane, I'm talking about government, governance, ordinance, defense. Physical, non-physical, private, public. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, everything that you do in terms of your national character should be in harmony with what already exists. See, there was supposed to be a smooth transition through the emancipation process. The so-called white slaves were supposed to go into a position of semi-ownership through the 14th Amendment, and you were supposed to phase into a free national citizenship due to the nationalization and the compensation aspects of the 13th Amendment with the 20th section. So as foreigners, through the fiction, we exist in a real state. So what they do is go back to the birth certificate, and if the estate isn't properly established, they still treat you as a dead person. Based on the 1666 Sestui Trust of the Ecclesiastical Vatican that was first set up by the ancient Britons who were overthrown by the so-called British. The Britons come out of the Dubs and the Pictish. Douglas, Kenneth of Douglas, had ancestors and sons that came over here with the Hessian and eventually settled in what we call New England. And one of his descendants is Frederick Douglass. See, everybody come from somebody else. But with all our people, at least the ones over here, they needed to blend in and marry into the nobility to be able to take advantage of the God-given right of dominion over the land, which then allowed them to go over there and run shit. That's why when Grenada fell, they was from Grenada, they came right here. Because that allowed them access here. Because that was the only way Moors from over here, there could come over here, unless you was coming through Mali. So again, our empires, kingdoms, and dominions, in their language, translated to nations, countries, and states. Now they've degenerated into corporatocracies and genocidocracies. So the present United States, by this dude acknowledging the UN Declaration of Indigenous Peoples, they didn't say native people, they said indigenous. So that could mean those natives that are claiming direct Moorish ancestry, as well as those Negroes and wanderers, to be declared as something natural. So all of this impacted or conjuncted with the queen abdicating the throne. Then all of the lands here in America going back to the descendants of York. Guess who that is? That's us. Yet we can't access that if we are functioning from the dependent position of supporting their government, on their position of we're supporting their government in its fictitious conquest over everybody else through colorable law. So a bill was passed a little while ago with a 93-7 vote that declared that the entire United States of America was a battleground. So this represents the landmass and the citizens of the United States within it. The U.S., the military then was able to then congress and coalesce itself in tactics to form intelligence groups and monitorings in the so-called United States. So this is, really bad for United States citizens. You understand? People who necessarily be trapped here. But as a Moorish American, you are an inheritor of many different estates based upon your lineage and what was taken from you. In every country you go, there's probably an estate in the name that you have. You just don't know. This is why the evidence of this is obvious in why, like I said, when you petition through a Freedom of Information Act to get your original birth record. Right? That's one of the things you can do when they deny you your right to get your birth certificate. You can subpoena write a Freedom of Information Act to request the original certified copy of your original birth record to then prove what's on it or what's on it or not. But what you might also see is a bunch of stamps on it from different banks all over the world, because based upon your disinheritance and abandoning of your estate, this name became correspondent to all of these other businesses that was associated with it through the mortgage-backed and based security system in the United States, meaning sureties of debtors and supposed creditors. Yet that is the estate that was set up by the money lenders, the money changers that Isa chased out of the temple. The temple that he was chasing them out of was the Moorish science temple, essentially, when you understand yourself as the Moor, whose science dwells within and between your temples, which is the seat of the occupant. You are the occupant. Your body is the physical state that the occupant executes through the office, which is the actions of the physical body. There's a book you should get called Galena's Old Stockade, and it's about the Black Hawk War of 1832. You should do the knowledge to this. This is very interesting, because Black Hawk was one of the great Moorish chiefs who became a god, who is still prayed to by the Winnebago and the Sauks, of which Elijah Muhammad's people are descendants of, who came out of Chicago, of course. So when you look at the historic aspect of what they call Morocco, they say 50,000 years ago, Neanderthals lived in Morocco. The first one was called the Rabat man. These were the descendants of those graftees that were being traded as beasts of burden through the Hammurabi system that was first being established. Morocco being northwestern Morocco, southwestern Morocco, as well as the country or the area that we know as the United States of Barbary, Morocco, Tunis, Tripoli, and Libya, as well as across the Pillars of Hercules into Spain, all the way up into the Pyrenees, over into Crete, where the Patmos and all of that was at. So the Stone Age humans habitated in Morocco, right? See the difference now. 50,000 years ago, it says 50,000 years ago, Neanderthals lived in Morocco. The first one was called the Rabat man. Then they say 10,000 years ago, Stone Age humans habitated Morocco. Then 8th century BC, we get the Phoenicians who established a foothold in Morocco. Then in 1468, the Romans took over the Carthaginian outpost in Morocco. So that means between somewhere in the 8th century, Carthage came up, and then the Romans took it from them. The 3rd century BC, Romans left Morocco for good after centuries of efforts to establish a viable agricultural system, meaning this was the expunging of the final war, or these wars between the Moors and the so-called amalgamated Moors who were calling themselves Romans, who had used and bred with the Neanderthals and had an aspect of them or used them as beasts of burden or specifically into slavery. Right? Then by 683 to 732, they left Morocco for good. Then by 638 to 732, the dissemination of Islam in Morocco under Uqba ibn Nafti Bey, and Andalusia under Turk ibn Zayed. Then in 788, the arrival of Moulay Idris, right, of which Idris Alba is a descendant of Alba is Al-Bey, in Morocco, and the emergence of the Idrises dynasty and the establishment of the first Islamic state, right? 808 now is the establishment of the city of Fez. Then by 1055 to 1147, the reign of the Almoravid dynasty, originating from the Sahara, right? So, well, let's go a little further. Then from 1054 to 1147, the Almoravids, okay. Then 1070, the establishment of the city of Marrakesh. Then 1130 to 1269, the reign of the Almohads, of which my queen is a descendant of, originating from Masmuda tribe of the Atlas. That's where El Glawi Pasha descends from as well. 1258 to 1465, the reign of the Marinids dynasty, right? Then from 1520 to 1660, the reign of the Saadians, originating from the Saliket el Hamra, right, which is a region of the Dra, which is a place in the Sahara, right? But these are all Moors schooled at Fez, which again was founded by the original Moors who inhabited Morocco, the Stone Age humans, 10,000 years before this, right? Then we get the reign, the Saids originating, okay, then we get 1578, the Qued al-Mazi battle, for which is the battle for the three kings. This is when it starts getting shady. These are the three kings' heads that you see on the flag of Sardinia. Then the advent of the Alawite chieftain dynasty. Then from 1664 to 1672, the reign of Moulay Idris, the unifier of Morocco. He was the one that brought or allegedly gave way to the representation of the Al-Moroccan dynasty that would act as the buffer between our Morocco over here and theirs over there, the Morocco of the farthest most west. 792, the reign of Moulay Silmain. This is Louis XVI. 1822, 1859, the reign of Moulay Abermain. And this was the start of the French occupation of Algeria. Morocco strongly supported the Algerian resistance movement led by Emir al-Bakr. 1859 to 1873, the reign of Muhammad VI. 1873 to 1894, the reign of Moulay Hassan I. The sovereign visited the southern provinces of Morocco, including the city of Tarifa, named after Tarif, and the Moroccan Sahara, and the so-called Western Sahara. That's over here. As well as where it says the reign of 1894 to 1908, the reign of Moulay Abdel Aziz. During this period, the Moroccan Sahara shared out under a secret treaty between France and Spain. You see, the Algiers Act was signed in 1906, and Casablanca was attacked by the French in 1907. This is where Humphrey Bogart and them tried to make that glamorous. 1908 to 1912, the reign of Moulay Abdel Kafid. The Protectorate Treaty divided Morocco into French, Spanish, and international zones of influence was signed on March 30th, 1912. This is, again, when the Moorish Science Temple now was established. A year later, in 1913. From 1912 to 1927, the reign of Moulay Youssef, during which the Moroccan people strongly opposed the French and Spanish occupation, which resulted in the War of the Rif, the Great Rif Pirates. Peace be upon them. November 18th, 1927, the enthronement of His Majesty Muhammad V at age 18. Under his rule, Morocco engaged in a decisive battle for independence. And then July 9th, 1929, the year after the Prophet received, 1928, the Prophet receives the represents the Moors of ancient Morocco at the convention of Cuba and receives the mandate back from the great Sultan Abdul Aziz. Then July 9th, 1929, the birth of His Majesty King Hassan II. July 11th, 1944, the presentation of the Independence Manifesto, demanding recognition for the independence of Morocco and its territorial integrity and its national sovereignty as embodied by His Majesty Muhammad V. You see this? 1944, this is at the close of their war. They nominated a Moroccan to sit on the seat that was taken out after. So as we go further on into the future, what you don't hear is us understanding how any of that relates to us, or us even talking about that in the direct context, where they mention us directly, where they say on July 11th, 1944, the presentation, His Majesty Muhammad V, his son, I think, Rashid, is on the throne now. They are sitting on the throne that was left at our demise after 1774 over here. But the international treaty that represented us is still in play and is the perpetual one that recognized the United States. The Morocco that recognized the United States was the Morocco over here, not the Morocco over there. The Morocco over there was recognized by the United States as being connected to Morocco over here, in the term of referring to it also as North Africa. So if the Morocco over there is North Africa and over here is Northwest Africa or Southwest Africa, being North Central and South America, we know that as a Mexican, based on the confusion of the United States and its perpetual disinformation given to its citizens, we are the ones that have sometimes fallen victim to the misrepresentation of what Morocco we're talking about. You can use aspects of this Morocco to represent you. They can't use aspects of your Morocco to represent them, because yours is older. Yours was the one that was the farthest most west. the Al-Maghreb, Al-Aqsum, Al-Shekam Exum, Al-Amazon. You are the one that they first talk about, like I said, plus 10,000 years ago. You the one that 50,000 years ago dumped the Neanderthals there. And then 10,000 years later, a Stone Age aspect of so-called humans, meaning Phoenicians, Moors, came there to then use them to build up what was old Morocco and ancient Morocco, the colony that eventually broke up into the 4 different states. We are disorientated by still representing nationalities that don't have a precipitated aspect of who and what you really are. So Moors, as a specific race of people, are Asiatics. You understand? Yet they, in their version of history, understand Asiatic in secret to be one thing and in public to be something else. So you can't get into semantics of who and what you are with them. You just state who and what you are and keep it moving about the overall point of why you're even corresponding with them in the first place. The less contact you have with these people, the better. Yet, whatever you say to them is always in reference to what it is you are seeking to push through, or they are seeking to act like they can't do. So, modern history doesn't want to say where or who the original Moors are. The original Al-Moroccans is us. The Al-Moroccans is us. The Moroccans is them. So I'm an ancient Al-Moroccan, or I'm an ancient Moroccan. So the Moroccans that exist today, I wear nationally the headdress that their king wears, because I'm a sheik from over here. But the sheiks were over here were forced to abandon their estates because they didn't have enough backup, because most of their people had already fallen under the false jurisdiction based upon their misrepresentation of who they were, based upon using trademarks of names that belonged to other people that had their demise in mind for them. So when they talk about ancient Greek and all of that, like I said, they're talking about you and Carthage. I just showed and proved to you then that Rome came out of Carthage, and that therefore if Carthage was Moors, Rome was Moors, and that means that you are the inheritor of Moors, especially if you get the book How the Arabs Conquered Rome. Take the word Arab out, put Moor, and see how it turn into a whole other book. Keep this. The ruling class hold to be honorable will necessarily be so in the opinion of other citizens. Where, however, merit is not especially honored, it is impossible for an aristocracy to firmly be established. It is to be expected that those who purchase the magistry, will endeavor to enrich themselves by it, meaning those people who seek to take over things through false titles will always be consumed by doing that. For it is absurd to suppose that if a man who is poor and worthy be willing to enrich himself, that a depraved man, after the expenses he has incurred, should not be willing to do the same. And then after he's blown all the money doing this, he got to do something to blow all the next money to do that. Hence, it is necessary that those should rule who are able to govern aristocratically. But it would have been better if the legislator had passed over the poverty of the worthy men and had paid attention to the leisure and paid less attention to the leisure of those who held the offices. It would also seem to be a bad thing that one and the same person should hold several offices, by which the Carthaginian is held honorable. You see? That's why you as a Moor are a sheik, a sheikist, executor, the occupant of the office, the emissary, consul, envoy, dignitary, the postal diplomat. You know what I'm saying? These are just different things you do. A high priest, an ontologist. These are all of the different things that it takes to do what you do. almost everything except a lawyer. You know what I mean? So based on that, that's one thing. Between the Romans and their allies and the Carthaginians and their allies shall there be peace and alliance. Upon these conditions, neither the Romans nor their allies shall sail beyond a certain point. They shall not be allowed to take purchase of anything except which is barely necessary for refitting their vessels for sacrifice. They shall depart within 5 days. This is the Carthaginians enforcing on the Romans. The merchants that shall offer any goods sailing to Sardinia. Remember I said the 3 kings. This is the 3 kings that was running it. They was no Carthaginians or descended from Carthaginians. However many years later they was decapitated. And any part of Libya shall pay no custom. See? Nobody in Libya. That's one of them. That's part of the Moors. But only usual fees to subscribe to the crier. And the public face shall be the security to the merchant for whatever he shall sell in presence of these orders. Meaning the more, whatever he want to sell, he's good. And that the state of Sardinia, which was or Rome or whatever, got to pay for whatever he needs to make it happen. If Roman lands in the part of Sicily which belongs to the Carthaginians, he shall suffer no wrong or violence in anything. The Carthaginians shall not offer any injury to the people of Ardea, Antium, Laurentium, Cerici, and Turricenia, or any other people in the Latins that have submitted to the Roman jurisdiction, nor shall they possess themselves of any city of the Latins that is not subject to the Romans. If any of these be taken, it shall be delivered to the Romans in its entire state. The Carthaginians shall not build any fortress in Latin territory. Latin territory represents southwest of Mexico. They're talking about over here. So the people who were the ancient Romans, or the simple ancient Romans, were also referred to as Latin because that was one of the Punic languages that developed out. Latin, French, German, Spanish, whatever. These Latins were descended from the ancient because they were called Hispanics because they were Romans and they used the Hispanicus gladius. The Hispanicus gladius was the sword that they used. So they were the Hispanics because this was the sword. This is how they was coming. So through the years, the Hispanics, the Latins, who were all Romans, who were really ancient Romans, are now called today Latin and are the ancient Romans, but don't know. That's because, again, ancient Latin or ancient Rome was over here in what we now call Brazil, just like Carthage was up here in what we now today call America, with aspects of it in the colony of what we now today call North Africa. How is it that Carthage is in where Barbary? How is it that Carthage is in Barbary, ancient Carthage was in Barbary, ancient Numidia was in Barbary, ancient United States of Barbary is in Barbary, the modern aspect of Morocco, Tunis, Libya, Tripolitania is in Barbary. You know what I'm saying? Ancient Phoenicia was in Barbary, right? All of these was in the same area, one nation on top of each other, because it was the same people passing it down under different names. Between the Romans and their allies and the Carthaginians, the Tyrians were Tyre, or Tyre was a city that was ran by Heru, the Phoenician, the builder of the temple for Solomon, the Hebrew, who again was ancient Canaanite, which is why he practiced some of the ancient stuff under Baal. And in that, he was also the foundation of the ritual of him being killed by the 3 Jews, Jubilo, Jubilah. That, again, was the Pharisees, Sadducees, Sanhedrin, but could also be the British, Spanish, and French in modern time. So what this is basically saying is that, again, all of this, like right here, in the presence of Jupiter, Hannibal the general and the senators of Carthage that are with him, and all of the Carthaginians that are in the army with him have said that the consent of you and us, this treaty of amity and concord shall connect us together as friends, as kindred, as brothers, and upon the following conditions. King Philip and the Macedonians, this is the father of Alexander the Great, together with the rest of the Greeks that are in alliance with them, shall protect them. See, King Philip and the Macedonians, that's one people. And then under them was the so-called Greeks that are in alliance with them. These were the descendants of the Neanderthals that they was training and trying to amalgamate with. With them shall protect and help the people of Carthage, Hannibal the general, and those that are with him, the governors, the bays, in every place with the laws of Carthage are observed. The people of Utica and the cities and nations that are subject to the Carthaginians sway together with their armies and their allies, and at the cities likewise, and in all the pity of the people with whom we are allied, in Italy, in Gaul, which is France, and Liguria, which is Eastern Europe, and all of those that shall hereafter enter into friendship and alliance with us in those countries. So in that, we have just shown and proved that Carthage existed at the same time as Macedonia, and that the taking of and the ruling of Alexander the Great into Persia and eventually with the empire seated at Babylon was the taking of this side of the Moroccan dynasty back over to that side, the ancient Canaanite side, and then creating a way to bring a coalition between the empire. And that Rome was really just a very small state that really had nothing to do with all of the great stuff that they talk about. There was the Roman state, the Roman Republic, and the Holy Roman Empire. Now, all three had their own jurisdictions, and all three were traditionally Moorish because they came out of Carthage the same way the United States did. You know what I'm saying? The Western Sahara were called the Guianos, the Guineos. Hitherto, the Portuguese and Spaniards had purchased blacks, undeclared Moors, from Moors by navigating the African coast. They hoped to procure them at first hand and largely by direct process of kidnapping. See? While we know nothing of the voyages made by the Moors, BS, they just can't tell you, the Bilad Ghana, and very little of the expeditions of the Genoese explorers, Moors again, who followed them. We possess tolerably full accounts of the Portuguese voyages. They were lighter and skinned enough for us to see what they was doing from their beginning, and these accounts leave us in doubt that the nature and the object of the earlier series expeditions were those of the above indicated. The slave traders of Barbary, until the capture of Ceuta by the Portuguese in 1415, may have occasionally supplemented their supply of slaves obtained through the inland traffic by the voyages to the Canary Islands and made for the purposes of carrying out the slaves. It's from a book called Dom Henrique of Portugal, or one of his accounts. So like I said, the overall aspect of the caliphates and how we were running things started to deteriorate based upon the overuse of plausible deniability in the overabundance and abuse of slavery amongst our people, those who are now undeclared, and those who didn't want to, who wanted to stay in their land above any other cost, which would mean, them abiding by the rules that put them at a disadvantage. That one black Moor that you see in the old movies with the feds that is always serving the white people, and they're always ordering them around and treating them like crap. They treat him like crap because he's really a traitor to his country, because he again hasn't gone back to build it up. So there's aspect of the entire equation into the return of how we perceive, let's say, the word Pharaoh, Pharaoh, and Pharaoh, Pharoah. And because we as the Moors understand who and what's really going on. We represent that original tribe of those pharaohs of Egypt. When you spell it with the like how I just did with the OH, that's now bringing up, with the ROAH, that's now bringing up the Moorish or Egyptian side of this whole equation that we only see as one-sided, being that we only see Kemet as the founding place of our ancestry. When Egypt, the word they kept using, the word that we have come to believe that means that Egypt is taken from us, which it was, has put us in a position where we are now gypsies, where we are ignoring what's right in our face. The fact that we are in Morocco, that we are in Egypt, that we are in the Garden of Eden, that we are in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Firstly, being our body. Secondly, being our world. So now is the time for those of us who become traveling, these ideas of you starting to travel and all of that, make that reality, but do it in your national capacity as a Moor, representing your country. Wearing your national headdress in these people's countries, the same way they come here and wear it in yours. And when they ask what you are or whatever, let them know, because that's how the word spread. Because they know. It's just that they don't see people our color and our capacity rocking shit like that. They only see the minstrel aspect of us, or the part of us that is somehow exploited like them. So when you come in over there in your natural person, or when you just rocking in your natural Moroccan habit, you really being you. You a sheik from over here. Just like they come over here and be sheik over here and just do their thing. Same way over there. It's just now you coming from the perspective of what they remember you as and not what you have been perceived as due to not knowing that we're more than that. You know what I'm saying? But with all that being said, there's a proper way to do it. You know what I'm saying? That's not so convoluted and so based on commerce that you miss really getting money. You know what I'm saying? Like, most of the money that you will get is not money to you. It's money towards what it is you are doing. Because everything you are doing is for the benefit of the family in the temple. Therefore, the overall goal is being accomplished. And the people who can't do it like that right now, eventually, inshallah, will support, because they see that you are striving to be as honorable as you can be with it. Because that's all you can really do. Because we all, regardless of how sovereign, whatever you want to be, you still got to be heard. So you still got to go on the TV and the YouTube and these things sometimes just to be able to express yourself due to all of the BS that you see being put out there. That itself is evidence of the melodrama that has become the everyday life for most of us in the United States as conscientious beings. So those who live by no law are truly lawless. Yet to be truly lawless, you know that the ultimate law is the one that is ultimately followed, which is the great law of peace, which is the law of Ma'at, and any other law that you want to say that's really involved in that. Like when you read the great law of peace and friendship, you see that at least in the version that we have available to us as human beings who are living under a reconstructed historical context. So we can only take the severance of the information to a point and then divine the rest of it through the spirituality of your research. research should not always be so right-brained where you just going in and you just, you know what I'm saying, just going in and you're just not really, like, breaking and taking the time to come into understanding of what it is you're reading by breaking and doing something creative, because that engages your thoughts of the other thing into a different way. And then the physical action of you representing it becomes, again, the express trust of how you will engage the other thing that you're striving to complete. We make it harder because we are doing the work of living our lives with a dead man on our back. That's what they meant in the old pirate's tale. Yo ho ho. And a bottle of rum. You know what I'm saying? Three dead men on a dead man's back. This is basically the yo ho ho is like the three hoes or the three Jews. And then the three men on the dead man's back, and that's the dead man is Heru, but that's also us in our physical sense, not knowing how this whole thing just got flipped real quick. That's why Moors started burying their treasure, because they couldn't trust the Moors who they used to deal with financially, because they was all now employing Jews employed by the crown, who were trained by the crown to then reorganize their money and help bleach out their families. The same thing is happening today. If your birth rate wasn't so high and above theirs, they wouldn't be so hard trying to kill you. You don't hear them going hard on the Asian people the way they're going on black people. You don't see them going hard on the only people you see them going hard on like that is Latin and Moors. I hate the Latins because they're the ancient Romans, and they hate the blacks because they all Moors. They hated the black Moorish overlords, but now that they're gone, they could wear their clothes and act like them. King Philip and Elizabeth and all them today. But I told you, an aristocracy that's not based on morality cannot rule. Therefore, they're not ruling. That's why you got to see them do so much charity with so much crazy shit to show that they're above, just taking money from people even though they got all the money. Everybody know that charity don't go to the ghetto. I'm talking about, Hollywood charities, things like that, AMFAR and this type of shit. These homeless, how you going to have $25,000 worth of plates, right, to benefit homeless people? Ain't no homeless people in there. And the only homeless people that's in there is people who used to be homeless maybe, but now look like they could be damn movie stars themselves. That's what I'm talking about in terms of bait and switch and how America is used in two different ways. So America is us. The United States is the corporatocracy. You know what I'm saying? And in between is us, the Moors, the Great Seal. So while all these Moors are politically infighting and going crazy on each other and trying to somehow merge into the United States, this is the best time for you as an individual, as a Moor, to be able to do things in a capacity that allows you to be recognized properly. You're doing these people a favor because they're only acting the way the Barbary Moors act like they were when they started to kidnap you and give you over to the white bondsmen who then listed you as an African and sold you down in Mississippi, sold you down the river. Remember that term? So my lawyer sold me down the river. That's a term meaning black men. What they did to the Moors. Sold them down the river of Mississippi. Made them believe that crossed the Mason-Dixon line or the 33rd parallel. Down there, they had already had a generation where they had been making up a history for these people to be under, and they brutalized them and made them believe it was real by keeping them isolated from everybody else. And because all the slave masters was teaching their Negro preachers to teach their slaves the same thing, it became the law. And after that first generation, they then could perpetuate it as it was true for the next 84 years. So then by the time 1865 comes, everything is in an upheaval. So now Thaddeus Stevens and Horace Greeley create that manifest for them to go west because now they have access through the south, through the northwestern corridor, through the northwestern ordinance, to access the lands that were now under the jurisdiction of the Spanish land grant. Based upon their agreements to pay the Spanish a certain fee for any hostile or renegade Indian or Moor that they would sell to them as payment for the debt. So, a lot of them became a vessel or a hostage for whatever the agenda of the trader, the one-eyed Charlie, or the white privateer, or whoever that was kidnapping Moors and then putting them under the guise of colorable law, claimed as amnesty or property, and then put under the jurisdiction and then sent somewhere else. That system is the same system that exists now in the United States, prison system. You know what I'm saying? That's why everybody hates this new Kanye album, because he's going in on them, talking about, the private prisons and all that, which is dope and all that, but, you go to show that regards to how high you get up there. One of the quotes he said was, I'm rolling in a rose, and I got my own line, but who would have known that they'd make me that they want me to pick the cotton for the clothes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's real talk, man. And it's the black man here. With the African, they've domesticated, or feel like they've domesticated them enough where they are somewhat so used to killing each other that they're not going to do nothing to the white man. That's what that movie Lord of War was supposed to convey. So let's see. If we have any calls, if anybody wants to call in, the number is 347-637-1184. If you have any questions or concerning anything we're building on. One thing I found interesting was that the whole more okay tornadoes that went down was so isolated in their trajectory that it almost seemed like they were talking. I don't know. Like, if everything has a consciousness, then within the consciousness of everything there is some sort of communication. So even in a so-called slave master situation, there is an aspect of communication that is being revealed. The aspect of what I was saying with the Moorish Science Temple is the fact that it is the doorway for you as a free national to access your free national estate, number one, and number two, allow you to put the dead man to rest and receive the benefit that was left for you as per the conditions of the creation of the United States. It was created from an aristocracy of Moors who descend from people who were famous from the time. People who were so famous that we don't know who they are. Historically, you understand what I'm saying? Moors. When I say Moors, I'm always talking about women and men. I'm not just talking about men. So, as these dynamic people brought forth this great government, that's why in the movie Lincoln, it even shows you it's true and word is bond, because in the movie Lincoln, after Thaddeus Stevens went through that whole shit, he folded up the Constitution, brought it home, and made sure he gave it to the black woman, and she slept on it on the night, and then he brought it back to them during the day. That's showing you. They got a scene in the movie where they bring these black people up, and they sitting above the white people, and they looking down, and the white man said, "Welcome to your house." Those were us. The only thing that was missing on them was the turbans and the feathers. But they ain't going to keep it that real. That would have to be our movie. And the fact that I wrote about the movie Lincoln before the movie Lincoln even came out, show and prove, again, word is bond, that the right knowledge puts you in the know. You know what I'm saying? It puts you ahead of the game, I'm telling you. And the louder and the more rabble-rousing and the more confusing people's ideologies and presentations become, the more you understand that it is not something that you're supposed to be doing the knowledge to. It's that simple nowadays. It's the year 1433. Actually, under our calendar, if you take the fact that the year 836 BC to 1196 BC translates to the year 1416 AD to 1776 AD. So, again, it's 2013, yeah, that's true, you know what I'm saying, by your standards, you know what I mean, but there's another government here, and no matter what they want to do, the reason why they persecute the black man and black woman is because they represent the other side of the money, the pyramid side of the money. It's not the Illuminati. It's not the Scottish Rite Masons. That dollar on that pyramid on the dollar don't have nothing to do with Freemasonry, man. I'm telling you, it don't. Freemasonry is a good cover for Moorish science, for real Moorish science. The rudder and the sextant, that type of Moorish science, but it's not, you know what I'm saying? It's not, you know, it's like Boy Scouts. You know what I'm saying? It's like grown-up Boy Scouts. And I'm not trying to disrespect people that's in it. But the very word craft was revealed to me by the Elder Moore to mean trick, or to take away from with guile and dexterity. So if you are a fellow craftsman, or you practicing the craft, you know what I'm saying? All you got to do is put witch in front of that, or, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. Doing tarot is not witchcraft. Like the prophet said, you got to learn what to take and what to put down, or what to leave alone. So if you have to wear an apron, like I said, to do something or to gain something spiritually, then that means you are concealing something about yourself. It's not like when you go to the astral plane, you wearing an apron, you know what I'm saying, and a fez or whatever, unless that's what you're projecting yourself at. But if you're projecting yourself in an astral plane in wearing that, then you are projecting yourself in an inferior position. And why would you want to do that? If it's about understanding the 90-degree angles and the 33 degrees, which really just represent the Neanderthal's rise from the 33-degree lumbar, of which he only has 32. Therefore, he is frozen at 32 in the third degree, which is why he receives an honorable 33rd. But your degree does nothing for you if you can't wear and have your own habit in natural life. Yeah. Diesel. You dig what I'm saying? Thanks, Dave. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm not trying to disrespect nobody's legacy or whatever you want to be a part of. You know what I'm saying? Because people take things personal. I didn't take things personal when niggas was going in on Noble Joe Ali and calling him this and calling him that, and saying this about the temple and saying that about the temple. I ain't taking it like that. That's your opinion. That's what you know what I'm saying? That's what people want to say. So you got to let them say that. But when you look at the facts, when you look at what was going on, I asked the elder on the beach yesterday. I said, yo, when you was growing up, was the capital of Cuba called Havana or Habana? He said, look, man, said, like, I'm like, you know what I'm saying, I'm older. Said it was Habana with a B. He was adamant. So when I look at the cover page of the Convention of Cuba of 1929 in Havana, and a computer now is having the red line under it like it's wrong, it's actually right. The computer wrong. You dig? So if the computer don't tell a lie, I guess, or don't know, or it's been programmed, you see, to see Cuba as what they wanted to see it as, but not what it is or what it was to the people who was there. He said Castro changed. You know, I'm not going to get into Castro being an odd fellow and all of that, him and Mandela and all of that, but everybody was a part of something. And that represents the private or the spiritual side that allowed them to build with the people that they was at war with. Bobby Kennedy talked to Malcolm X and the rest of these niggas was all building. Probably tossing the same shorties and all of that. I'm not saying Malcolm X was, because allegedly he was very, devout, which is great. But like I said, the prophet in them in the 20s was out there setting up temples and all of that through the Ahmadiyya movement. While Sheikh Deuce Muhammad was helping prepare Marcus Garvey. So by the time the UNIA movement is assembled or discovered, now the prophet is now setting up not only Moorish Science Temple, but by 29 is about to or receives the document that shows and proves why the Moors can say and be who they are. Yet, due to, again, dirty Moors and other people around that was breaking down what was trying to be done, at least for these people that wanted to do that. Like, if you don't want to be a Moor, you ain't got to be. You could be whatever you want to be, and I would support that as an American. But when I say American, I'm talking about a Mexican, which then means African. So if you went to African, you could say, okay, he's a Moor, but he understands where the word Africa means in terms of him being a Moor. So I can accept that. Great. I'm not going to be, like, if I go to Africa, I'm not going to not be a Moor in Africa. Meaning, if I go to Africa, I'm not going to act African. You see, I'm going to respect and learn from the culture that I'm blessed to be around, or that's blessed to accept me for what my culture is. And then they might find that they're actually Moroccans too. See what I'm saying? That's the beauty of not being bound to what negative people say about you. So whatever stories or myths or whatever people have made up about you or me or anybody else, unless they are physically at a point where they are taken away from your overall happiness, They are there to signify the debt that these entities owe you on the other side. And so you got to let it ride to do what you got to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever I think about any of the people that I talk about, it ain't stopping them from getting money. They could be listening to me and just laughing like, yeah, nigga, but you know what? I'm just catching a $200 million check. And you know what? They should be doing that. But they doing enough dirt or whatever it is they doing to make it happen. Yet, we're of two different types. I can really be myself. They cannot. They can only act in caricature of themselves. And this becomes the system. I'm only going on because people haven't hit up the line. And it created a system of that. So to support each other, we should, one, support everybody's position, at least their right to express it. Two, don't get involved with it if it's not anything that's pertaining to you. Three, go with the spirit, which is God, which is you. But until you come to that conclusion, deal with whatever entity you're dealing with to get there. But don't feel that you have to give up who you are to wear a fez or, you know what I'm saying, wear a turban or declare yourself or whatever, man. Like, if you want to be a Christian, cool, man. That's what you got to do. But at least be a Coptic Christian, man. You know what I'm saying? Go back to the root. You know what I'm saying? Just because you were Islamic don't mean that you have to pray 5 times a day. You are Muslim. There's different things for you. More ancient things that are more natural if you give them a chance to be. So please check out www.darkscope418.com. That's the world's most dangerous comic book novel. You'll love it. It's about everything that's going on and more. You can also check out www.aseerthedugateers.com for any of our older DVDs and more modern lectures, as well as workshops. You could also go to www.cookingmorewithless.com. You could also check out www.radio-Aseer.com. So, again, anybody that wants to holler at us, please do so at houseofl@hotmail.com about any of the things we talked about tonight. Anything else you want to build on, you can also do so. You can also hit up www.superherueradio.com. And, again, thank you and the ancestors and the prophet and the Almighty for bringing us to a point where we can all agree that something has to be done and that an overall consensus needs to be made so that way those that want out can get it without having to give up a limb or a child or some other craziness that the so-called United States wants to impose on any of its citizens. And I only say the United States because that's the fiction that we live under here. Yet there's a lot of other fictions in a lot of other countries in the world where the indigenous people are just like you, and they're doing the same thing too. Only difference is over here we have an international agreement that's signed by a so-called president that's literally killing people every Thursday. If you believe the whole reports about the hit list and all of that. But essentially, and he won a Nobel Peace Prize. So regardless of who or what, this is what's going on, and there is a definite way to establish yourself where you are not taking away from these people. but allowing yourself the ability to have your own and let, again, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. So, again, holler at me at houseofl@hotmail.com. The song you heard in the beginning was The Beach off of our second album called the Soundtrack Mixtape Album CD under the name Team Cordoba, which is myself and the Queen and more. So you can check that out, as well as our first album. It's called The Birth Record. You could get it off of TuneCore or iTunes. So again, thank you guys for coming through, and inshallah, if you have any donations that you would like to pass forth, because that's what we take all of the patronage as, zakat or donation, you can do so to dukeoftears@gmail.com. That is through PayPal. So thank you, and inshallah we'll speak again. Peace.